Hi everyone, this is Ms. Granger. In this video we're going to go over the Part 2 OPCVL section of this Lesson 2. Previously you learned about the Glorious Revolution and you read a primary source document and annotated it. So be sure that you have that primary source document. It should look like this and you should have annotated along with the previous lesson. But now that we've learned the information about the Glorious Revolution, and we've annotated a document, kind of decoded what it means, now we're going to evaluate it as a source. And we're doing that with the template outline of OPCVL, origin, purpose, content, value, and limitations. Now we took notes on this in Lesson 1, so pull that out as well. Your Lesson 1 looks like this, and you will find the section that is on the back that says OPCVL, and it has all these questions. So we're going to kind of reference back and forth from this document to your Lesson 2 document. So be ready to do that. So the document we're evaluating is this text on the English Bill of Rights declarations. These statements that were made by Parliament to limit the powers of the monarchy. So let's start with the questions in the origin section. The first question is, who is the author? I can look at my document and I can see that it was written by the English Parliament. Remember, that's the government or kind of Congress governing board of, at this point, only men. So on my note paper in this first section, I'm going to answer that question. So who was the author, which is the question? I'm going to put English Parliament. My next question says, what type of document is this? Now, nowhere in this document does it say, this is a such and such. So I need to kind of make some inferences and read between the lines, if you will. So I know that it was written by the English Parliament. Things that are written by a governing board and then signed into action by a leader, those are called laws. So what type of document is it? It is a legal bill of law. So I'll fill that in here on this second line. Now I see that my third bullet point here is just something very short. So let's look at the question to make sure we know what it's asking. When was this document written? So I'll go back to my document. I see 1689, and I will write that in my third line. My fourth line says blank blank explanation. My question is, does it have a title? The answer is yes, and so now I need to explain what the title is. So I'll look at the title and I see English Bill of Rights Declarations. So in fact, you need to make an edit here. It's not an explanation, it's a declaration. So this should be English Bill of Rights Declaration. So just cross this out and write declaration. The last question on origin is it a primary or a secondary source? So I know that this document was written in 1689 by this governing board and signed by the monarch. So since it was created during that time, it's a bill of law. It is a primary source. So let's put that here. Alright, so we've discussed the origin, or where the document came from. Now let's discuss why it was written, or the purpose. The first question we need to answer is, why is the author writing? We'll make a couple of inferences here as well. Why is the author writing? Knowing what we know about the Glorious Revolution from our notes, in addition to the actual document, we know that they were really unhappy with abuses from the monarchs. Draw that conclusion by also looking at my document and looking at what they actually wanted to happen. Raising taxes by the monarchy without parliament is illegal, so clearly that had been going badly before. Executing laws by regal or monarchy authority without consent of parliament is illegal. So I can understand that the parliament was kind of generally unhappy. Next, what is the author saying? So not why are they writing, but what are they actually saying? They're really making a list of desired powers. So they're listing the desired powers of parliament. They're also listing some rights of regular people. Thinking specifically of this particular line that says that is the right of the subjects to petition the king. You can kind of make a formal complaint against the monarchy and it won't be illegal. And of course they're limiting the monarchy, so they're putting limitations of the monarch. Essentially the monarch must get permission or approval from Parliament before they can do most things from here on out. Last question here, who is the author's audience? Who are they trying to reach? Well, number one, they're addressing the monarch, the king and the queen, and the regular people, saying, hey, you should have these rights now. So monarch and people. Let's move on to the content section. And the content section is really like what is happening. So summarizing the content, what are the main ideas? So our first bullet point, generally the content includes a list of desired powers and rights for regular people. So pause and fill that in. Now I want you to do this next part. It says, what are the main ideas? With your document here, I want you to go through and choose 2, maybe 3 that you kind of summarize and then put into this second bullet point. So what are some of the big ideas that the Parliament really wanted? So pause the video, reference your document here, the English Bill of Rights declarations, choose a couple to summarize. Pause and do that now. Our next section is about the value. Well, let's look at our questions. First one says, what makes this document valuable? In other words, why do we even really care about this document? Well, as I was reading through it, I kind of noticed a lot of similarities to what we see in the United States Bill of Rights. For example, the subjects, which are Protestants, or those are the people of that religion, may have arms or weapons for their defense. I know that in our Bill of Rights, we have the right to bear arms. That looks really similar here. I also see this phrase, freedom of speech and debates or proceedings. I know freedom of speech is something that's similar in our Bill of Rights as well. It goes on to say that this is for Parliament, but we can tell that this phrasing was an idea that Americans took later. We also have this phrase about cruel and unusual punishments, that's not appropriate. And I know that's in our Bill of Rights as well. So our value, this really matters because it has lots of similarities to the U.S. Bill of Rights and Constitution. The next question says, how does this type of document add value? So the type of document, remember, is a bill of law. We already established that. We're going to say that the type is valuable because it really laid the groundwork for future similar documents. All right, let's look at the last section, which is the limitations. Our first question says, what parts of the document may not be helpful when researching this topic? So when I'm looking at the document, I see a lot of mention of Parliament, the governing body. I see a lot of mention of the crown or the monarchy. I see one reference sort of to subjects who are regular people, but mostly it's kind of people with control and power. We also had this phrase down here, freeholders, which were landholders. And during this time, if you owned land, you were pretty wealthy. So I think it's really limited in its vagueness. So its vagueness about who specifically has these rights makes it adaptable, meaning that can kind of change depending on what time period it is, but it also makes it limiting. And our last question, how is this type, remember, Bill of Law, how is this type of document a limitation? Right, so at this time, a legal bill could really be limiting to people who were illiterate, meaning they could not read or write, or uneducated. If you don't have the skills to actually read or critically analyze a bill or a document, that's not going to be very impactful for you in the immediate future. All right, that's it for this lesson. Be sure to check with your teacher for any next steps.